de recherche et d'analyse qui y sont effectuées en ce qui concerne le développement des technologies financières, des cryptoactifs et des monnaies numériques. Mr. Lane served for 20 years on the staff of the International Monetary Fund. During that period, he contributed to the IMF's analysis of numerous countries and conducted research on a wide range of topics, including monetary policy, financial crises, IMF reform, and economic transition. In 2008, he joined the Bank of Canada as an advisor to the governor, a position he held until his current appointment. Born in Ottawa, Mr. Lane holds an honor BA from Carleton University and a PhD in economics from Western University. Please join me in welcoming Tim to the stage. Tim? Please note that there will be a period of question at the end, so prepare them for Mr. Lane.
OK. Merci beaucoup de cette introduction et bon après-midi à tous. I felt that I was particularly grateful for this invitation to speak to this group because I think it's really a perfect audience for what I want to talk about today, which is some thoughts on how technological innovations are transforming the world of money and payments. Now, as we've already heard, I mean, technology has certainly changed every aspect of our lives, and people are now working, shopping, and staying in touch with each other very differently than they were even as recently as 10 years ago. Technology is also changing the way people are paying for things, and so we're seeing digital payments in the form of debit, credit, and prepaid cards. We're seeing mobile payments like Apple Pay and Google Pay, and we're seeing, for example, the ability to send money by email. And there's even limited use of cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. The Bank of Canada is looking very carefully at how money and payments are evolving, and that's because one of our key public policy objectives is to help ensure that Canadians can continue to use their preferred methods of payment with confidence. New technologies in our payment system mean new opportunities and benefits for consumers, for businesses, and also for financial institutions. But they also raise the potential for new risks in our financial system. In my remarks today, I want to talk about how the Bank of Canada is responding to this evolving environment. Part of our response involves looking at whether a case could or should be made in the future for a digital currency to be issued by the Bank of Canada. So I'll be sharing our contingency planning around that eventuality. Commençons par quelques notions de base concernant notre écosystème de paiement. La majeure partie de ce que nous considérons comme l'argent aujourd'hui se compose de dépôts bancaires et la plupart des paiements, que ce soit par carte de crédit, carte de débit, virement ou chèque, implique le transfert de fonds entre les banques ou d'autres institutions financières. Ces transferts se font grâce à des systèmes de paiement, c'est-à-dire le matériel et les logiciels qui permettent à une institution financière de transférer des fonds à une autre. Au Canada, ces systèmes traitent plus de 200 milliards de dollars par jour ouvrable. La Banque du Canada joue un rôle distinct en ce qui trait au paiement. C'est parce que les paiements d'une institution financière à une autre sont réglés au final par un transfert de fonds entre le compte à la Banque du Canada. La Banque joue aussi un rôle de surveillance et de réglementation à l'égard de l'ensemble du système. De plus, elle conçoit, émet et distribue les billets de banque, soit l'argent comptant qui passe physiquement de main à main pour acheter des biens et services. Alors, parlons pour quelques minutes de l'argent comptant. L'argent comptant est une technologie de paiement simple et ancienne. Il a résisté à l'épreuve du temps grâce à plusieurs atouts importants. D'abord, il est sûr, il a cours légal, Il a une valeur relativement stable et il est largement accepté pour les paiements. De plus, il établit la confiance dans le système bancaire. Les clients des banques sont assurés de pouvoir convertir en tout temps leurs dépôts en argent liquide. Par ailleurs, l'argent comptant est accessible à tous. Tout le monde peut l'utiliser, même ceux qui n'ont pas de compte en banque. Perhaps not surprisingly then, cash is particularly important to those who face challenges accessing alternative payment methods, and that includes the homeless and those living in remote communities. Cash is also resilient. It works even when computer systems go down or during a power failure. It is private. You can buy everyday goods and services without revealing your identity or your personal or financial information. Cash also preserves an element of competition in the system by providing a cheap and reliable alternative to credit and debit cards. All that being said, of course, cash has its limitations. It's more suitable for relatively low-value transactions because of the obvious security risks of carrying around large volumes of cash, and it cannot be used to make purchases remotely, for instance, to make purchases online. With this background in mind, I'd like to discuss some issues that Canada's payments ecosystem is currently facing. Recent advances in technology offer opportunities to improve our core payment infrastructure. We've seen this at the retail level already with contactless tap-and-go payments, mobile banking, and other innovations. The structure of our economy is also changing, though, with transactions increasingly taking place online, and we've seen that with the surge in those retail transactions that are taking place online relative to more traditional retail sales measures. Partly reflecting this whole set of changes, we're seeing a steady decline in the use of cash in retail transactions. The Bank of Canada surveyed Canadians a couple of years ago about how they're paying for goods and services. Respondents said they use cash for about a third of their transactions, and that's compared to more than half of their transactions just a decade earlier. About 1 in 10 Canadians in that survey now were claiming to be entirely cashless. In some other countries, notably Sweden and Norway, the use of cash has declined already to a level where merchants are now finding it too costly to continue to accept cash, and banks are also scaling back their cash processing services. I'll talk later about how we can maintain access to cash, particularly for those unbanked and underbanked members of our society. In addition to these trends, which are driven mainly by technology, globalization has put the spotlight on cross-border payments. Canadians who have family members in other countries often face high costs and long delays of sending them money. Businesses face similar drawbacks, for example, in paying for goods and services that they purchase from outside Canada. Ces frictions et ces coûts ont mené à l'introduction de nouveaux services de paiement. Ils ont aussi mené à l'introduction de monnaies numériques privées qui visent à rendre les transferts de fonds plus faciles et moins coûteux. On a tous entendu parler de l'explosion des crypto-monnaies ces dernières années. C'est ainsi que le Bitcoin et d'autres actifs numériques similaires ont été lancés dans l'espoir qu'ils deviennent l'argent du futur. Cet objectif n'a pas été atteint et ne le sera probablement jamais. Faire des transactions avec les crypto-monnaies comme le Bitcoin coûte tout simplement trop cher et leur pouvoir d'achat est trop instable. Plus récemment, une innovation qui pourrait changer la donne est apparue. Les crypto-monnaies stables ou stablecoins, conçues de façon à conserver une valeur stable par rapport à une monnaie ou, dans quelques instances, une matière première comme l'or. Dans la plupart des cas, elles sont adossées totalement ou en partie, par exemple, à des avoirs en monnaie. Comparé aux premières formes de crypto-monnaies, les crypto-monnaies stables ont des meilleures chances d'être largement adoptées. Et par conséquent, elles ont de meilleures chances de transformer encore plus le monde de l'argent et des paiements. L'exemple le plus marquant est la Libra, une crypto-monnaie stable que Facebook a l'intention de lancer en partenariat avec d'autres entreprises. La Libra sera utilisée sur une plateforme de messagerie déjà très connue. Elle pourrait ainsi atteindre des milliards de personnes, y compris beaucoup de gens qui ont peu ou pas accès à une banque ou à d'autres services financiers. Il est difficile de prédire si la Libra sera à la hauteur de ses promesses ou même si elle verra le jour. Mais c'est un bon exemple de technologie transformatrice qui change la façon dont la Banque du Canada doit s'adapter à l'évolution future de l'argent. So now let me go on to talk about a few key areas where the Bank of Canada is focusing in order to adapt to this fast-moving world of payments. So, starting at the most basic level, we're working to make sure that Canadians who wish to use banknotes can continue to do so. We're working with financial institutions to maintain a state-of-the-art distribution system for cash, and this will help ensure that accepting cash remains cost-effective for merchants. Some other jurisdictions that have been in the news recently have adopted more prescriptive approaches, including laws requiring the acceptance of cash at the point of sale. Of course, these approaches have both costs and benefits that need to be further examined. A second area of focus is the bank's support for Payments Canada's payment modernization efforts. The goal is to provide consumers, businesses, and financial institutions with a modern, fast, and convenient payment system. One exciting aspect of this project is the construction of a fast, always-on payment system called Real-Time Rail, or RTR. This system is being designed with building blocks that are designed to meet consumers' payment needs today, but also in the future. Based on this, you may imagine paying for groceries as you pick them up off the shelf, or ordering and paying at your favorite shawarma shop by tapping your phone to a code on the menu. The bank is working with Payments Canada and stakeholders like Interac to ensure that the RTR is resilient and promotes competition and efficiency in the Canadian payments ecosystem. To complement the RTR, the government is also exploring open banking, which is also known as consumer-directed finance. The intent of open banking is to provide a safe way to give consumers greater control of their financial data and therefore safe access to a wider range of financial services while also reducing the costs that they face. This, too, would help foster a more innovative and competitive payment system and financial system more generally. The government is also looking to implement a new retail payments oversight framework that will require payment service providers to beef up their risk management practices and better protect end users from losses. The bank has been tapped as the regulatory authority to monitor compliance, including maintaining a public registry of regulated payment service providers. Le troisième enjeu prioritaire a une dimension internationale. Il s'agit des paiements transfrontaliers. La Banque du Canada a travaillé avec la Banque d'Angleterre et l'Autorité monétaire de Singapour pour relever les points irritants des paiements transfrontaliers. Les travaux à ce sujet se poursuivent au pays et à l'international, notamment au sein du G20. Évidemment, toute amélioration au transfert de fonds entre pays exigerait le maintien de mesures de protection essentielles. Celles-ci permettent de repérer et de contrer l'exploitation du système à des fins criminelles ou terroristes. Je pense ici, par exemple, à la règle de connaissance du client, Know Your Customer. Quatrièmement, la banque se penche sur les monnaies numériques privées, dont certaines ont été présentées comme les réponses aux défis que posent les paiements transfrontaliers. Bien que l'avenir de la Libra et des autres crypto-monnaies stables soit incertain, les monnaies numériques privées demeurent un phénomène mondial. Il faut donc un effort mondial pour comprendre tout ce que cela implique et pour veiller à ce que le cadre réglementaire soit approprié. C'est pourquoi la Banque du Canada est heureuse de travailler avec le Conseil de stabilité financière ainsi que 23 autres pays et territoires. On travaille ensemble pour mettre en lumière les questions de supervision et réglementation qui soulève les innovations dans le domaine des FinTech. Nous restons persuadés que l'innovation, la concurrence et le choix des consommateurs sont de bonnes choses et que les perturbations ne sont pas notre ennemi. Mais il est essentiel de comprendre et de gérer les risques que présente un produit offert au public pour les gens, les entreprises et l'ensemble du système financier. All of this leads to my final area of focus. In the context of the issues I've raised today, there has been increasing discussion around a central bank digital currency, or CBDC. We can think of this as a digital version of cash. A CBDC would be designed to provide the same benefits as cash that I've talked about: safety, universal access, resilience, privacy, and competition, but in an electronic format that could be used for online transactions as well as at the point of sale. It could, for example, be used, transferred using a mobile phone or some kind of special card or device. In its economic properties, it would be truly equivalent to cash. Today, we have released a comprehensive document that outlines in greater detail our recommendations with respect to a CBDC. I would encourage you to visit our website and read some of our thinking, but I'll share the highlights with you right now. We've concluded that there is not a compelling case to issue a CBDC at this time. Nous avons conclu qu'il n'y a pas d'argument convaincant en faveur de l'émission d'une monnaie numérique de banque centrale à l'heure actuelle. Canadians will continue to be well served by the existing payment ecosystem, provided that it is modernized and remains fit for purpose. This means that banknotes remain available to Canadians who want to use them, including marginalized populations in our society, that the Canadian payment system is brought up to date and made more competitive and innovative, as I talked about, and that problems with cross-border payments are adequately addressed, and an appropriate regulatory framework for stablecoins and other private digital currencies is established, both in Canada and globally. All this being said, the world can change very quickly. The Bank of Canada can imagine scenarios in which we would consider issuing a CBDC so we can continue to provide Canadians with trustworthy means of payment. One scenario would be if we ever reached the tipping point where cash could no longer be used for a sufficiently wide range of transactions. That scenario would raise several potential concerns. Payment services offered by large financial institutions could become the only game in town, giving them increased market power. People without adequate banking services would find it even more difficult to participate fully in the economy. People would lose the ability to conduct their transactions privately, and the system could have a single point of failure, making it more vulnerable to computer system breakdowns and power outages. Bien sûr, même un tel mouvement vers une société sans argent comptant ne voudrait pas dire automatiquement que la banque émettrait une monnaie numérique. C'est un choix que les Canadiens et leurs élus devraient faire le moment venu. Dans un autre scénario, la banque pourrait envisager d'émettre une monnaie numérique de banque centrale ou MNBC si l'utilisation des monnaies numériques privées se généraliser. Il pourrait y avoir une monnaie numérique dominante lancée par une grande entreprise technologique. Ce pourrait devenir un monopole qui porterait atteinte à la concurrence et à la vie privée et qui présenterait une menace inacceptable pour la souveraineté monétaire du Canada. On pourrait aussi imaginer l'émergence de plusieurs monnaies numériques privées. Les consommateurs et les commerçants devraient alors composer avec toute une série de modes de paiement différents. Cette situation ne serait pas sans rappeler l'époque avant la création de la Banque du Canada, où le pays comptait plusieurs émetteurs de billets de banque. Dans ces deux scénarios, on pourrait faire valoir que la Banque du Canada devrait intervenir. Et tant qu'institution publique de confiance, la banque pourrait créer une monnaie numérique officielle en faisant de l'intérêt du public sa priorité numéro 1, sans motivation commerciale. Ce dernier point est important. Selon un sondage publié il y a quelques semaines, plus de la moitié des répondants dans 13 pays ont dit qu'ils préféreraient une monnaie numérique émise par la Banque centrale. Quant à eux, les géants du Web étaient ceux qui inspiraient le moins confiance. Par ailleurs, il est crucial que pour notre souveraineté monétaire et pour la capacité de la banque à mener la politique monétaire, de conserver le dollar canadien comme unité de compte, c'est-à-dire le fait que les prix sont exprimés en dollars canadiens. Cela pourrait être remis en cause si une monnaie numérique privée adossée à une autre monnaie ou à un panier de monnaies faisait une percée importante dans notre pays. Alors, quelles sont les prochaines étapes? Bien qu'on ne sache pas ce que l'avenir nous réserve, nous devons aller de l'avant et déterminer quelle forme pourrait prendre une éventuelle MNBC et comment le gérer si jamais une telle décision était prise. While we don't know what the future may bring, we need to move forward to work out what a potential CBDC might look like and how it could be managed if the decision were ever taken to issue one. There are many aspects to consider in this contingency planning. How could a CBDC be integrated with other methods of payment, yet be resilient so that it still works during a power failure, for example? What business model might work? Would the Bank of Canada try to develop a CBDC mainly in-house, or would it make more sense to partner actively with the private sector? How would a CBDC work for cross-border transactions? And perhaps most importantly, how could we ensure that Canadians could continue to maintain privacy for their transactions for legitimate purposes while guarding against illicit activities like money laundering, terrorist financing, and tax evasion? Answering these questions is part of our work, and we're not alone. A recent survey by the Bank for International Settlements covering 66 central banks found that about 80% of them are currently engaged in work on central bank digital currency, and 10% are in a position where they see themselves as likely to actually go ahead and issue one within the next 3 years. Nous avons formé un groupe de travail avec 5 autres banques centrales et la Banque des règlements internationaux. Nous allons utiliser cette plateforme pour mettre en commun notre expérience alors que nous évaluons les arguments en faveur de l'émission d'une MNBC dans nos territoires respectifs. Toutefois, une MNBC ne pourrait être émise avec succès que si les Canadiens en souhaitaient une. C'est pourquoi nous allons consulter le gouvernement et les principales parties intéressées dans les provinces et territoires du pays. Et vous êtes les premiers à être consultés. Nous allons aussi examiner quelles caractéristiques pourraient rendre une MNBC attrayante à mesure que les technologies de paiement et le système financier évoluent. Nous allons consulter les fournisseurs de services de paiement et les commerçants pour nous assurer que le modèle de gestion est valable et que les rôles sont clairs. De plus, nous consultons divers organismes publics. En effet, nous savons que beaucoup de questions liées à l'utilisation d'une MNBC ne sont pas du ressort de la Banque du Canada. Nous allons notamment discuter de la façon de protéger la vie privée des utilisateurs tout en prévenant les usages illicites. Par ailleurs, il est important de mentionner que la Banque devrait obtenir le pouvoir législatif approprié pour émettre une monnaie numérique si une décision en ce sens était prise. Dans nos travaux, nous allons continuer de considérer l'écosystème des paiements de façon globale. Nous voulons nous assurer que tous les éléments, les systèmes de paiement, l'argent comptant et une éventuelle MNBC continueraient de fonctionner ensemble pour fournir aux Canadiens les services de paiement efficients, fiables et sûrs dont ils ont besoin. En même temps, nous allons veiller à gérer les risques soulevés par une MNBC si une telle décision a été prise, non seulement pour la Banque du Canada, mais aussi pour les banques, les fournisseurs de services de paiement et les utilisateurs. In conclusion, it is clear that technology is changing the world around us, and while we cannot perfectly predict the future, we can certainly plan for contingencies. This includes readying ourselves in case a decision is made someday to issue a Bank of Canada digital currency. Il est clair que la technologie est en train de changer rapidement le monde qui nous entoure. Et même s'il est impossible de prédire parfaitement l'avenir, nous pouvons malgré tout parer aux éventualités. Nous pouvons, entre autres, nous préparer au cas où la décision d'émettre une monnaie numérique de banque centrale était prise. Some people may question why we would ever need a CBDC when so much of our money already flows electronically. Let us go back to the two scenarios I presented earlier that could warrant the launch of a CBDC. The first is where the use of physical cash is reduced or eliminated altogether. The second is where private cryptocurrencies come to make serious inroads. If either scenario came to pass, it is possible a decision would be taken that society would be well served with a digital currency that is designed, issued, and distributed by an organization that is guided by the interest of the public rather than profit, that is safe, resilient, universally acceptable, and private, similar to cash, and that is backed by a central bank's balance sheet and its reputation for preserving the value of our money. Our intent would not be to issue a CBDC to replace banknotes or to drive out chartered bank deposits. As long as the public still wants both of these products, we will continue to support them. In fact, we are now actively planning for the design of a new $5 banknote. The Bank of Canada is in the midst of a wide consultation process to ask Canadians who they want as the portrait subject of this new banknote. But as the world changes, the Bank of Canada will continue to fulfill its mandate to support secure, reliable, and efficient payment options that benefit all Canadians. Le monde change, mais la Banque du Canada continuera de remplir son mandat consistant à offrir des moyens de paiement sûrs, fiables et efficients pour tous les Canadiens. Je vous remercie de votre temps et votre attention, et merci, je me ferai un plaisir de répondre à vos questions. Okay.
It was very insightful.
Okay.
Let's So, lots to cover in
Oui,
this.
c'est une grande gamme d'enjeux ici.
Absolument. Donc, pendant que vous préparez vos questions, on en a préparé quelques-unes en préparation. La première, vous dites que vous allez commencer une conversation avec une conversation autour de, vous l'avez dit en anglais, autour de Canadian Digital Currency et la possibilité de comprendre à quoi ça ressemblerait. Donc, consulter les Canadiens, si on comprend.
Oui.
Comment on procéderait pour faire ça?
Parce que nous pouvons imaginer la forme d'une monnaie numérique, banque centrale. Selon nous, nous avons un produit qui est établi, l'argent comptant, et c'est un produit qui a des propriétés qui sont très importantes pour les Canadiens, mais c'est possible qu'il y aurait d'autres choses qui sont importantes pour les Canadiens et les Canadiennes. Alors, c'est important pour nous de ne pas seulement procéder sur l'hypothèse de quels sont les besoins qui pourraient être remplis par une monnaie numérique de banque centrale, mais vraiment d'avoir des conversations. Et c'est seulement une série de conversations très variées. Nous devrons discuter, comme j'ai dit, avec des niveaux différents de gouvernement, les représentants des des autorités de réglementation des marchés financiers, par exemple les autres aspects du gouvernement, mais aussi les banques, les représentants des consommateurs, des représentants des petites et moyennes entreprises, les communautés autochtones et les autres éléments de société qui sont engagés dans l'économie canadienne. Alors, nous ne sommes pas en hâte de conclure ces décisions parce que, comme j'ai dit, nous ne voyons pas un besoin imminent de lancer une monnaie numérique, mais c'est important de commencer de préparer avec ces conversations pour mieux comprendre les besoins et les désirs des Canadiens.
Et dans un de ces scénarios que vous exprimiez, il y en a un autour de l'émergence des private stablecoins. And you mentioned the potential threat to monetary sovereignty. Can you tell us a bit more about the risk and the effort to regulate in Canada and globally?
Okay, well, on the first part, I mean, the whole monetary sovereignty question, as I mentioned, it's related to the fact that, currently we have a Canadian dollar, which is the unit of account in Canada. We, as the Bank of Canada, have a commitment to maintaining a low, stable, and predictable rate of inflation, but that's a rate of inflation vis-a-vis the purchasing power of a Canadian dollar. If we imagine a world where some other digital currency, which would either be based on another national currency or based on some basket of currency or on a commodity, were to actually become into widespread use, then that would mean that, well, for one thing, it would become increasingly difficult to control the stability of the purchasing power of the Canadian dollar, but also it could that could become increasingly irrelevant to Canadians. And since our mandate is the stability of the purchasing power, this would considerably limit the role of Canadian institutions to control their own inflation rate and to actually have an influence on their own macroeconomy. So, in that case, that would be a case that would certainly call for a serious conversation about whether we should be trying to do something that would have whatever desirable attributes that stablecoin might have, but would be backed by the central bank and which would be denominated in Canadian dollars, and therefore would have that still that link to our sovereign role in preserving the stability of our own currency.
So quite a few different types of stablecoin we are seeing emerging.
Yes.
Canadian dollars backed stablecoin, for example. What is the view of Bank of Canada on those?
Well, if there are Canadian dollar stablecoins, of course there are still other issues that have to be dealt with, and this is the subject of a lot of international discussion. Certainly monetary sovereignty is one of the things that's been talked about, but it's by no means the only issue. And we're involved in. I'm personally involved in conversations with the around the Financial Stability Board table and some other groups that are looking at where are the risks and what risks are common to stable coins and to other types of financial products, and which risks are specific to stable coins. And we're still trying to come to a better understanding of that, but certainly that is something that is requiring a lot of international discussion before we're in a position to know how these things should be regulated.
Before the next one, is there questions in the room? Yes, I don't.
Michel Boutier. Yeah, so I think it's interesting what you're saying. I like your comments. To me, it seems that having a CBDC is like a deflecting strategy against those cryptocurrencies in case they were taking too much room in the currency world. And so I think that's very interesting. And I would say that it's important that it's an organization that is working in the interest of the public. But if you were to have your own CBDC, what would be the links? I'd like to understand the links between the Canadian dollar and that new CBDC. And what if you have, in a world, in the country, that CBDC starting to take more room and having inflation, seeing inflation rate with the CBDC being different from the inflation rate with the Canadian dollar? It could happen. How would you look at that and deal with this?
No, well, what we're thinking of when we think about a CBDC is something that would be denominated in Canadian dollars. And so it would be equivalent to cash. So it would be like, just as banknotes are a liability of the Bank of Canada, CBDC would be exactly like that. So the only difference between CBDC and banknotes would be that it would exist in an electronic form, but in economic terms, it would be very much equivalent. And like in our current setup, where we supply banknotes to meet the demand that the public has to hold them, and they can exchange banknotes freely for bank deposits. In a world with CBDC, we would do exactly the same thing by some mechanism vis-a-vis CBDC. So it would be exactly, in economic function, it would be exactly equivalent to cash, but it would be digital. So that's again, this is in the event that we actually moved ahead and developed such a thing. So that's really the vision we have. It's something that would therefore not pose any issues for price stability for Canada that we haven't already figured out how to handle in a world with banknotes.
Thank you. I see a question.
Hello, Denis Laroche, Desjardins.
Oui.
You talked about two scenarios or two triggers that would. What about peer pressure? Let's say G7 countries are issuing CDBD.
Well,
let's
first of all, I'd like to come back on the use of the word trigger, because I'd like to stress the fact that these are not triggers. There's nothing automatic about. Well, first of all, because the scenarios might. But this is actually good. I'm glad you actually used the word, because it gives me a chance to sort of reinforce a point I wanted to make, which is the fact that these are, even if one of these scenarios emerged, of course there's an element of judgment in assessing assessing whether one of these scenarios has materialized or not. Second thing is that we probably wouldn't wait until the world has moved fully in the direction that we're talking about in the scenarios. We'd probably have to see the way the world is going and to be a little bit forward-looking in that regard. But certainly, even in the event that the scenarios were to materialize, there would still be a deliberate decision required to decide we would actually move ahead with CBDC. However, our current thinking is that it would take time to develop something that we could actually launch with confidence. And this is the sort of thing where we figure that what we bring to the table here is a trust that we carry as an institution. And in order to maintain that trust with a new product, we would need to make sure that we are absolutely sure of the way that it's implemented, that it has to be, we have to have really the very highest standards of the very highest standards of, for example, of security and cybersecurity and so on, and that would require taking the time we need to develop it. So with that, coming to your actual question, the issue of peer pressure, I mean, I think it does come in one way, which is that if other countries started to issue CBDC, then we could actually be into a situation where a foreign-issued CBDC could start to be used increasingly in Canada, and that would be a scenario that would look a bit more like my second scenario. So I talked about private digital currencies, but one where another central bank issued a digital currency that started to be used increasingly in Canada would also be one that would lead us to sit up and think about whether we should be doing the same thing while we still can preserve the primacy of the Canadian dollar in Canada. So that's really the sense in which it matters what other central banks do, But as far as other aspects, I think we have to be clear, this is something we're looking at from the point of view of Canada. What does Canada need? What's happening here? And that's going to be paramount in our thinking about what we need to do.
Thank you. So we're talking about the international relationship. The Bank of Canada, you mentioned, has a cross-border project with the Monetary Authority of Singapore to explore cross-border transactions and the friction point, if I understand correctly. What did we learn? What are the next steps?
Well, that one was okay. That was a report. There was there's for those that are interested in following that up. There's the papers that are on our website. It's called Project Jasper, and it's gone through a series of four stages. And the fourth stage was the one I referred to, which was one that was joint with the Bank of England and the Monetary Authority of Singapore. That was really looking primarily at a wholesale payments and the possibility that a tokenized version of the Canadian Canadian Bank of Canada money could actually be used to facilitate cross-border payments. And the conclusion was that that could be part of a solution to some of the cumbersomeness and cost of cross-border payments, which I referred to. But I think the conclusion was it's not the only approach that might work, and it's also not sufficient to address the problems that I've dealt with. You'd also need to have some degree of harmonization of the rules, particularly some of the rules, the know your customer and that sort of thing, that is itself a source of friction in cross-border payments. So this is work that, I mean, we've done this series of research, proof of concept. It's I think insightful in terms of the possibilities that it points out, but we're also following this up in our work in a broader set of discussions that are going on through the Financial Stability Board and the Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructures, which are looking at some of these issues more generally in a global context.
Great. We have a question.
Allô? Bonjour, mon nom c'est Ravi de chez Desjardins. En fait, j'avais une petite question par rapport à votre avis. Il y a 4 jours, Shopify, qui est une plateforme canadienne, une organisation canadienne, a affirmé et donné l'information qu'ils ont une association avec Libra de Facebook. Oui. Donc, Shopify est une plateforme, dans le fond, qui se transige 100% en ligne et il y a des milliards et des milliards de dollars qui se transigent, plus de 45 milliards. Donc, on voit des entreprises canadiennes qui font association avec des GAFAM de ce monde et éventuellement, en termes de légifération, c'est des légiférations qui sont parfois différentes, se rétractent, ils en ont des nouvelles. Je me demandais, j'aimerais ça vous entendre par rapport à ces grandes associations-là et par rapport à qu'est-ce que nous, de notre côté, et vous, de votre côté, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire de ce côté?
Oui, et pour commencer, certainement, je ne peux commenter sur de telles décisions d'affaires, mais je peux dire un peu des aspects un peu plus généralisés, que si on discute des crypto-monnaies et surtout des crypto-monnaies stables, stablecoins, une question très importante est quel est le potentiel d'être employé dans une plus grande gamme de transactions dans l'économie. Et il y a 2 ou 3 ans, le Conseil sur la stabilité financière mondiale a discuté des crypto-monnaies en général et a fait la conclusion qu'on doit suivre de près les évolutions de ces produits, mais que c'est encore trop petit pour importer beaucoup pour le monde de paiement et pour poser des risques systémiques sur le système financier mondial. Mais avec l'annonce du Libra et non seulement l'engagement de Facebook, mais aussi, comme vous avez dit, à peu près une centaine d'autres entreprises, y compris depuis la semaine dernière Shopify, créer la possibilité de l'adoption de ces crypto-monnaies stables par une plus grande des secteurs plus importants de l'économie. Et cela, certainement, met sous la loupe toute la gestion de ces produits et le problème de s'assurer que les risques sont assez bien gérés, que par exemple, les droits légaux sont établis d'un aspect suffisamment clair, que la réglementation des parties différentes du système sont adéquats, que les liens avec les autres produits financiers sont assez bien réglés, et plusieurs autres aspects, par exemple le blanchissage d'argent et les protections contre de tels abus du système. Alors, dans ce contexte, c'est cette possibilité que plusieurs entreprises, comme vous avez discuté, puissent se joindre à de tels efforts qui tirent plus d'attention pour un tel projet.
Est-ce que vous croyez qu'il faut toujours attendre après les grands GAFAM de ce monde pour ensuite que nous, on fait quelque chose? Parce qu'il n'y a pas de légifération qui est universelle non plus, ce qui devient très complexe.
Certainement, au fil des quelques années dernières, il y a plusieurs cas où des entreprises dans un garage ont établi une nouvelle compagnie qui a pu changer tout le monde de technologie, de finance. Alors, on ne devrait pas se convaincre que rien ne peut réussir sans l'engagement de ces grandes entreprises. Alors, c'est encore possible que des nouvelles entreprises puissent introduire des produits qui auraient de tels changements, mais certainement, si une entreprise qui a de la grandesse de Facebook fait une telle annonce, ça tire automatiquement l'attention de tous les décideurs. Alors ça, c'est pour nous, nous avons parlé de ces enjeux depuis, et nous avons fait du travail sur les implications du FinTech depuis quelque temps, mais je crois qu'il y a beaucoup plus qui peut-être je dis que c'est beaucoup plus facile de persuader les gens que c'est important quand Facebook est engagé.
Merci.
Merci. Mathieu?
Yes, hello, Mr. Lane. Just a quick question on open banking. You've touched on that topic. In your opinion, what are the risks that the Canadian financial system faces if we don't adopt an open banking regime? And can you talk to the calendar of the ongoing process there and how the bank would react to an eventual new regime putting in place open banking in Canada?
Okay, well, as you probably know, I mean, there was a discussion paper that was put out for consultation. Various stakeholders responded to that, and now the government is in the process of thinking about how to move ahead. I think the motivation for doing it is fairly clear. I mean, currently information is very central to how financial institutions do business, and I mean, even going back to generations ago, where you had relationship banking being the dominant model. I mean, that was all about information. I mean, now you have different business models that still also use information, and I think one of the challenges has been the fact that it's been very difficult for customers to share their information safely with companies other than the ones that generated the information. And so it's very difficult, for example, for households to move to switch to getting services from other fintech companies. without going through screen scraping, which is a process that involves some risks. And so the idea that you could actually establish a platform that would allow some of that transfer of information to take place safely and to allow the customer to actually make the decisions about what information gets shared is one that could be very important to making the system more competitive and also encouraging innovation. Now, when you talk about the risks of not doing it, it's really the sense that an opportunity not taken is still a risk. I mean, you risk having a system that gets stuck with a less competitive and less innovative model, and that means that other countries are moving ahead. It also means that Canadians are not benefiting from services that might be made available to them and that could make them better off. And certainly that has to be viewed as being a risk of not doing it. Now, obviously, the risks of doing it are that that the system will look different if there's more competition. You have to do it properly in a way that makes sure that the platforms are well designed and so on. And so clearly, it's not something you can charge into. But the government is now working and exploring how they can move forward on this file.
Thank you very much. I think we're out of time. We don't have time for it. Sorry. Thank you very much.